Let's try that again. You can tell I'm rusty. It's the first show of the new year. Welcome, everyone, to Game Over Vancouver. I am your host, Clay Imoo. I am Canuck Clay on a night where the Vancouver Canucks defeated the New York Rangers 5-3 at Madison Square Garden. It is the first show for me of the year, and I will work out all the kinks just like the Canucks did in their first game of the year earlier. But now they've won 2 straight after knocking off New Jersey on the weekend, and now the New York Rangers. A 5-3 game, had a lot of really great goals, some good goaltending, so a really good energy. You put one of the top teams in the West against one of the top teams in the East, and there is a lot to like about this game. So I have a good friend of mine, a former boss of mine. I'm not sure if he's willing to admit that he's going to join me in about a minute. But before we get going, now that I'm back in the saddle and now that I'm going here, I want to invite you to do a couple things. Like this video, like the fact that the Canucks won, like the fact that the Canucks are battling Winnipeg atop the Western Conference, and they are opening up, believe it or not, they're opening up a lead in the Pacific Division. You can also subscribe to this channel, SDPN, where we cover all 7 Canadian teams with post-game shows. And hit the notification bell if you want to be notified of these shows, reminded of these shows. But the most important thing to do is subscribe to SDPN, like this video, and if you want, you can also follow me. I'm at Canuck Clay, both here on YouTube and on X/Twitter as well. But I don't want it just to be me talking tonight. I do want to bring in someone, like I said, who I've worked with, I've known for almost a decade now, and he's doing such amazing work as the managing editor of Daily Hive. And I'll let him talk a bit about his work and his thoughts on the game, this team, and where we go from here. So please welcome, everyone, my good friend, Mr. Rob Williams. Hey, Rob, how are you?
Hey Clay, what a game! I picked a good night to make my post game debut here on your show. This is great.
Well,
What an awesome showing by the Canucks tonight.
it was. And before we get into the game, I'm so grateful that you're joining me tonight, Rob. I've asked you for a couple of years now, and because of your media credentials and everything you have to do, you are often at the arena, so an away game made sense. So why don't you, before we talk about this game, why don't you tell everyone what you do, especially for Daily Hive, and how that works for you?
Yeah, I wasn't positive enough about the team to come on your show until now. No, yeah, I'm the national sports editor at Daily Hive. Cover like Canucks and whatever else is interesting to people, sports related in Vancouver, as well as Daily Hive is in 5 Canadian cities now. So we're in Calgary, Edmonton, Toronto, Montreal, and we have a whole team of guys, sports writers that cover different teams across the country.
Awesome. When you say national editor, you said 5 cities in Canada, so you are also technically in charge of those other 4 markets. Is that correct?
Yeah, listen to me.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, you're probably you're a good boss to me when you got me started off at Daily Hive, or Van City Buzz as it was called back in the day. So
Yeah.
I am very grateful that you are here for sure. And by the way, I think we've had some Daily Hive writers and content creators on here, including I think Trevor most recently, and
Yeah.
who else has been on? Well, I don't want to put you on the spot either. It's okay. We worry
Yeah.
about today. So before we get into this specific plays, what do you think? What were your thoughts coming into this game? What were your hopes for this game for the Canucks? And overall, did they exceed those expectations for you for tonight specifically?
Yeah, I mean, other than getting outshot, which I don't know if that told the whole story of this game. It didn't seem like a game where they were necessarily under siege. I think Demko had to be great in a few spots, certainly. But if you look at the goals that they scored, I mean, did they score an ugly goal tonight? I mean, maybe the empty netter wasn't a beauty, maybe, but the other 5 were just outstanding highlight reel type goals. Yeah, I thought that they were exceptional in this one. The Canucks also, I think the one thing that's kind of hung around them, other than the whole talk of the PDO and the puck luck that they've been getting, has been okay. Well, they've got a lot of wins against some bottom feeders, right? And they've taken care of them, and that's all you can do. But they haven't necessarily racked up a ton of wins against top teams. The Rangers are one of the best teams in the National Hockey League this season, a top 5 team in the standings. One of the favorites to come out of the East and make some noise in the playoffs. So this was a really tough test for the Canucks. To me, this is a statement game, the way they played. And I think it's also going to be a statement game in terms of media attention, given that there was only one Canadian team playing tonight. It was the Canucks. Given the fact that they played at 4 p.m. Pacific, you could just see like the reaction from the Eastern media, who say they always claim that they stay up late to watch the games, but you don't see them reacting so much on Twitter as you do tonight. So I think this is a big statement game under the bright lights in MSG, and they were able to pull through and put through a really impressive performance against a very good team.
Great point, Rob, about it being a statement game. And yeah, you're right. They lost to the Rangers here. They got blitzed by Vegas here. They split the season series with Dallas. So they haven't even played LA and Boston yet. So there hasn't been a lot of domination yet, and they've taken care of who they need to take care of. So you're right. This was a really, really good start. And yeah, this road trip overall, we won't get into too much, but isn't that tough? So it's great after laying that egg against St. Louis last week that they've now won 2 straight against New Jersey and New York. Okay, let's get into the goals. So just for everyone watching, thank you for being here. They're already peaking at 75 people in here. My number just shot up in front of me. It's like my weight. It went up to 82 now. So that's pretty good. So there's 80 of you in here. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. And this is what we're going to do. Rob and I are going to break down the game, the goals especially, because so many nice goals to talk about on both sides for the first 15, 20 minutes. Then for the second part of the show, we'll talk about just where the Canucks team sits in terms of the mega powers across the league and what they may have to do to ensure that they're sniffing around the top of the league when it comes to playoff time. And then, of course, the third segment will be the SDPN presser, where we'll fire 3 or 4 questions at Rob coming from all of you. So you are welcome to ask questions in the chat right now. I may not get to it because we do have a lot to get to, but definitely at the end of the show, I'll be asking you to resubmit those questions as well. All right, sounds good. So Rob, starts off good for the Rangers, early power play and a crazy goal. Just a crazy goal. Demko had no stick. He was on his back. No one knew who was covering who. And Trocheck, Panarin, Zibanejad, Fox, and I don't know who their 5th guy is. That's a pretty good unit.
Yeah, best power play in the NHL, and that was a funny one because there was a lot of like fortunate bounces on that, right? Like I think it hit a discarded stick at one point, and took a couple bounces right to Rangers players, but at the same time they were moving the puck around so quickly and were able to adjust and kind of do that cross seam pass, and when the puck went in, you kind of thought, oh boy. And how about the atmosphere at Madison Square Garden? Like that just looked like an unbelievable atmosphere, even when the Rangers were losing and they scored the 5-3 goal. They roared, and it's like, it's probably too little too late, but yeah, that goal was kind of like made you go, okay, this might be a tough night, right?
Yes, absolutely. And that is only 3.5 minutes in. You're right. But then just a minute later, not even, it's the Lotto line. And it's a really nice play from Besser, bringing it up to the blue line on his forehand, ringing it around with speed. Pettersson, one touch with speed to Miller in the slot. And that was just a beautiful display of their skill. It was a sign of things to come, but a really good bounce back goal by the team.
Yeah, I called it a natural Lotto line goal because it was 6-40-9, right?
Very nice. Don't let Thomas Drance hear that. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, what a response, right? Like they're still calling, they're still announcing the goal in MSG, and you get the response with that kind of a goal. Great ring around the boards from Besser to Pettersson, just like you say, a one touch right out to Miller, and unleashes that great one-timer of his and blows it by Shesterkin to just have, and then of course Miller, that's got to feel a little bit extra good playing one of his former teams. Score back in MSG, like just the perfect response.
Yeah, and Miller was a beast. I know they talked about it in the first intermission. I'm not sure if you saw it, how he trucked Keandre Miller once. I think it was Trocheck or someone else later in the period. He was all over the place, very motivated. And then just 2 minutes later, it's Niels Höglander getting his first of 2. Hughes makes a really nice play through the neutral zone, gets the puck over the blue line, and that 4th line combines a nice little tic-tac-toe. Lafferty, Niels Amon looks up and sees Höglander alone, and it was a one-timer, right? He just kind of snapped it above Shesterkin. I can't even say the guy's name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a bit of a tricky one, I think, to one time. It was kind of, kind of in his feet. He kind of had to adjust his stick and his body to be able to get that, but he gets all of it on it, and just roofs it right away, and was able to put it in the net. I think he made it look a little bit easier than it was, but yeah, just a great goal by Höglander there.
Right, and that's the skill, Rob, that Canucks fans are clamoring for. He's on such a good contract, and if he can outplay that contract, it's so important for this team. 11 goals, like that was his 11th. He gets his 12th later, which is even nicer. But yeah, that's kind of what we want from guys like Kuzmenko, I think. So it's 2-1, and then before the period ends with just 16 seconds remaining, yeah, this was a beautiful play. I thought this was going to stand up as the nicest goal of the game, but it's got some competition. It's a Quinn Hughes from his own zone off the boards to Petey, and then I keep saying beautiful, but how else can you explain it? A nice feather pass past the defender to Besser, and he shows his not just a snapshot or a wrist shot. He can score with some dangles as well. What'd you think of that one?
Yeah, I don't like when I'm on Twitter, I don't like react to every goal. I'm not like, oh my God, what a goal. But like tonight, it felt like it. It was just like, what an incredible, like this is unreal. But yeah, like what, that great stretch pass and Pedersen just kind of delays and just kind of waits for that seam to open up, gives it to Besser, and
Yeah.
then just a perfect finish.
Yeah.
Yeah, what else can you say? Like it's just another one of like every goal was a beautiful goal tonight. It was
Right.
it was incredible.
So I tweeted about the goal as well. Then I said, a couple of observations after the first period is that great pace to the game. That was very entertaining, regardless of who was winning 3-1. I said our D looked big when you have Susi joining Zadorov and Myers and Cole, who's not tall, but he's thick. So there's some good beef on the blue line, like a kind of a playoff type blue line. And then I said, maybe this is a preview of the Stanley Cup final. And then I said, actually, maybe that's getting a little bit too far ahead of ourselves.
It could be Clay like this. I mean,
30 years later.
I like the way this team's playing right now.
Yeah.
Like you look at the Canucks and their forecheck. I
Yeah.
don't recall the last time that we saw a Canucks team forecheck like this. Like
Yeah.
it's just, and they've got four lines deep. Like they can come
Yeah.
at you in waves. I know not every line was really firing on all cylinders tonight necessarily, but
Sure.
you're seeing that, and I think that's why I give Rick Tocchet a lot of time for his you know, reluctance to play Kuzmenko right now. He's like, if he's not forechecking, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I think he needs that engine to be going. And if you have one cog not doing what they should, it doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
So he's got everyone rolling right now, and playing that style of game.
Yeah, and we'll get into that in the second segment, just why the team is doing so well. And thank you. A couple people corrected me, or at least advised me that Kreider is the fifth member of the Rangers power play. Of course he is. Of course. They start off the second period, and it's New York who opens the scoring once again in the period. A bit of a lazy pass from Besser at the blue line, and this is the one that sends Lafreniere away, and he drops it to Panarin, and he beats. I noticed with Demko, he's letting in a couple. I'm not worried, but he's letting in a couple more goals from the slot, almost uncontested. And this was one of them. And everyone that scores in Demko, they seem to score high on him, as Trocheck did later. But what do you think of this goal? No big deal. Were you scared now because this made it cut the lead to 3-2?
I don't know if I was overly worried. I mean, it makes it a game again, certainly.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that, yeah, it was a wild second period with like a lot of chances back and forth. It became a bit of fire wagon hockey at times in this game.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Panarin goal didn't worry me so much on Demko. It was more the Trocheck one, I think, was one that we probably would like to have back.
Yeah, and we'll get to that one. Yeah, you're right. The Rangers opened the scoring in all three periods. So I'm going to let you take this one. I'll set it up for you. Hronek, a nice pass to Bluger in front of the bench. Bluger, a quick pass to Petey as Petey gains speed over the blue line. Take it from here, Rob, the hockey guy.
Oh, geez, where are we here?
So,
what goal are we on?
So this is goal number 4. This is the one where he walked the defender.
Too many goals.
Yeah, I know. But this is the one where Petey, not to put you on the spot, where Petey walked the guy and did that really nice.
Oh yeah.
But
just the I just had that do your deeks thing like in my head immediately. Like just Pedersen was just quick hands like all night. He was doing it all night, but it really was on display on that goal in the second period,
Hmm.
where he just kind of dangles one guy. The goalie makes the first save, and he kind of dekes around him and kind of tucks it in, uh, into the goal from
Yeah.
going around the goalie. So yeah, just fantastic. Yeah, what else can you say?
Now I know you're a good hockey player. I've never played against you, but I've seen your stat line. You know that I am just a good dad, just trying to get some exercise when I'm out there, when I'm not rupturing my Achilles tendon. I would have never had the wherewithal to have. I wouldn't have been able to deke that first guy and even get the first shot off. But for him to then gather the rebound, go around Shesterkin, knowing he's going to get cross-checked in the back, and then to bring it back in front like that. Talk to me how much skill that takes, because I know you know
Oh
how to
yeah.
play hockey. Yeah.
I can't stick handle like that or even close to it. But yeah, no, I mean it's just instinctual for Pedersen, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
he gets the puck on a stick, and that's just he's just doing it without thinking, right? Like
Right.
he's not thinking, like he's not it's not like he has to think about it, right? He just kind of just does it, and that's the mark of someone with elite skill, as Pedersen
Yeah.
does.
So I thought the Besser goal was nice, Rob. Then I thought the PD goal was nicer. And then I don't know, this Hoglander goal, Hronik again, a nice pass up to Suter. Suter comes in on his backhand, draws both defensemen over and ships it over to cross crease to Hoglander, who then puts it between his own legs and then scores. Kind of sweeps the puck past Shesterkin. Maybe Shesterkin was kind of mesmerized by that play through his legs, but that was beautiful. I was yelling, but at this point, I was yelling.
Yeah, and, so quickly after the Pedersen goal as well, to really put their stamp on the game.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really smart play by Suter, right?
Mm.
Like that's a 1-on-2. He kind of drags two Rangers players towards him. He just kind of just patiently just kind of turns, stops, and finds Hoglander, who has space to do that kind of that little between the legs
Yeah.
move to give himself even more space and score. Yeah, and that's that's your what that's your I guess that's Suter. I don't know what line is which anymore, but a couple different guys on different lines, but
Yeah.
yeah, to have your depth players really contributing like Hoglander did tonight,
Hmm. Hmm.
scoring his 12th goal. I mean, he's on pace for what 20, 24, 25 goals
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
What a fantastic season for Hoglander. Hopefully, he can
Yeah.
keep it up. And I just love the way he plays. Not even just with the puck on his stick, but the way he's so tenacious on the puck, and the way
Mm.
he plays physical and drives the other team, bananas sometimes, is really great to see from Hoglander.
Yeah. And the confidence or the swagger or whatever adjective you want to use to pull that off. And maybe, I don't know. I don't know how quickly you can think about this. Maybe he knows they're up 4-2, or maybe that's his only play. I don't know. But it was just so impressive. And yeah, it got me
But
on
I mean,
my.
I think that move from Hoglander. That's not like that's an easy move for him, right?
Right.
Like just and it's a little bit instinctual. It's just
For
like
sure.
I think it's almost like a basketball player that puts the ball behind their back on their dribble, right? It's
That's
just
right.
like it's just gives yourself a little bit more space and gives you kind of like your
Yeah.
body as a you know kind of a blocker to be able
Yeah.
to give yourself more space and protect the puck and protect the ball.
Yeah, good.
Um,
Actually, that's a great analogy about
you know,
an instinctual play for a basketball player. It would be like my son bowling, between his legs. Something that just not everyone can do, but it's
yeah.
instinctual for sure. Awesome. So it's 5-2. We're laughing. You and I meet for our tech test over the intermission. We're saying, yeah, we're not guaranteeing a Canucks win just yet. And sure enough, just like the other two periods, the Rangers open the scoring, get the first goal of the third period. And this was early, so you're right. It wasn't like we had the game in the bag. This was only 3.5 minutes in, and a really good. Lafreniere showing his hockey IQ tonight with two really good assists, and this is Trocheck just blowing it by Demko coming down that left boards.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one that Demko would like to have back. I think
Mm,
that's one that when he's really at the top of his game, as he was earlier in the season, I think he has that, he makes that save.
yeah,
And it feels wrong to be slagging Demko at all tonight, given the amount of shots that the Rangers put up on him. The Rangers had 42 shots on goal tonight. So like it's by no means a poor effort from Demko, but that's one I think we're used to seeing him stop. But the Rangers have firepower, and Trocheck, that's his 12th goal of the season. So he knows how to score goals in this league
Yeah.
also. But yeah, I do wonder, like, it's there's a lot of, at that point there's a lot of the third period left, and I think I didn't I think I felt pretty comfortable still with the Canucks. If they give up if they give up the fourth goal and make it 5-4, now look out. But I think at 5-3, still feeling pretty comfortable. I think the thing that made me feel a little less comfortable, and I wonder if this plays into the psyche a little bit. I mean, it must at some level with the players, where you just hear that crowd, like I was talking about with at MSG, that crowd just roars.
Yeah.
Like that was a roar of a crowd that thought they can come back here,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
nobody had given up hope in the stands in that game, and you just wonder. Then I know I go on about these random things, and it's just what I do. But like the goal horn at MSG, how good is that goal horn? How good is that goal song that they have
Yeah.
with the, I don't even know what you call it. It's like their own like Rangers goal song that they've had forever. It must be such a what a life it must be being a Rangers fan, where you don't debate the goal song and you don't debate the jerseys. You just like roll out the same thing for 100 years. But
Yes.
um,
You
but
know,
anyways,
yeah.
I so anyways, my point is the goal song made everyone nervous. I don't know what I'm saying about this, but yeah, I think the Canucks they're still in control at that point, right? And last year's team we'd be they would have crumbled and given up the lead in the third period if they were so lucky to have one. But
Yeah.
this year's team's built differently, right? Like they haven't blown a lead coming into the third period yet this season.
Yeah, 23-0 or whatever the stat is. That's pretty cool. And that's a really good point, Rob, about the momentum and how maybe because the goal was so early, and you're right, it was a raucous environment there. The previous three Canucks wins, San Jose at home, Ottawa at home, and then New Jersey away, where the Canucks had big leads, and then the opposing team scored one or two to make it. I was never nervous with the San Jose because they're San Jose. I wasn't even nervous about Ottawa, and I certainly wasn't nervous about New Jersey, given they were missing all their firepower. But tonight I was a bit nervous. I can't sit there and say a guaranteed win. I had my tweet in my drafts ready about you and me talking about a big Canucks win, but I just make sure I didn't press send like too early. But yes, and then the Canucks they did what they've done 22 other times this season. They protect that third period lead. PD salts it with the empty netter. We don't have to talk too much about that. And it's I keep saying 5-3 victory is a 6-3 victory.
Yep.
I kept forgetting about the empty netter. So 6-3, a doubling of the Rangers, and it sends the Canucks to 55 points. It sends the Canucks to a record of 15 games over 500. That's the 55 minus the 40 games played, and they're 26-11-3, which is pretty cool. They are now, as of now, second in the Western Conference behind Winnipeg, and second overall in the league behind Winnipeg by points. We don't have to worry about points versus points percentage now. All the teams are close enough. Oh,
first place. The biggest part though is first place in the Pacific Division, and they've got a 4-point cushion on Vegas right now. Like that is going to be huge if they could finish first in the Pacific and avoid LA and Vegas in the first round. I think that would be pretty big for the Canucks. So that's the big one. The first in the league is kind of a cool thing to look at, but I think first in the Pacific is the one that really matters.
And that's a perfect segue, Rob, to our second segment, where we're going to talk about the Canucks looking ahead to the playoffs and what kind of roster moves they may have to do. But before we get to that, I have a really interesting question I think it's interesting. You just mentioned that if you finish first, you avoid the 2 or 3 hole, and it's going to be either LA or Vegas. What happens though? Do you have any time for the argument of, but heck, I don't want to play the Edmonton Oilers if the wild card versus number one is not guaranteed, that you're in your own division, but it could happen. Do you worry about the Oilers at all? And the second part of my question is, do you think the Oilers could actually catch one of the Canucks, Knights, or Kings before the season ends?
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible, and I think that the Oilers would definitely be a tough out. Like McDavid and Draisaitl should scare you at any time. But at the same time, I just feel like they've got a lot of question marks with that team, right? Like they've had a you know an up and down season to say the least.
Yeah.
That's more of a team I feel like is a bit more vulnerable when it comes to playoff time. They're not confident in their goaltending.
Right.
There's a few warts there that I think that they could expose. The thing that worries me about LA is you've got Kopitar and you've got Danault and two
Kempe. Yeah.
Selke level
Yes. Yeah.
centers, and you've also got Dubois. What a power up the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you just worry like, wow, they could just shut down the Canucks? Top. I was always thinking about the top two lines with Miller and Pettersson playing on separate lines. They're well positioned to shut down the Canucks top guns in that way. And if you're loading up just one line, I think like with the Lotto line, I think that they're vulnerable again for that. If you're looking at Edmonton, I don't know that there's a team, that they are a team where you go, oh, they're going to shut us down. They're just going to try to trade chances, right?
Right. Right. Right.
And I think that the Canucks are deeper. I think they're probably a little better on defense, and they're definitely better in goal. So I think
Yeah.
there's those. And then Vegas, I mean, obviously Vegas, the reasons for scaring you should be obvious, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stanley Cup champs, they've already shown they can get it done. Aiden Hill's been excellent in goal. So that's, that was the concern going into the playoffs last season. There's not that concern this season. They're big, they're mean, they're tough. Like there's a lot of things that should be concerning about that. But Ben, how nice is it? We're in January and we're talking about playoff matchups. Like
Yes.
this is what this feels like we're in make believe land. It's been so long since we've been able to do this.
That's a really good point. When Stuart Skinner has 16 wins, he's near the top of the league, but it doesn't seem right. Like if you have to pick one guy that doesn't fit in between right now, Demko, Talbot, Hill, and Skinner. Yeah, I'd pick Skinner as well. So I agree with you about their goaltending. So let me ask you a 2 or 3 questions, Rob. Just setting up this whole thought of, you're right, 40 games in, so we're one more game to the halfway point. We are on a 110, 120, 12 point pace. So you win first in the Pacific, you get home ice advantage for the first 2 rounds. So all these things that the Canucks can have, in their crosshairs. Let me start with this first one. A lot of talk about this Lotto line. They've obviously combined for multiple points in the 2 games. Is it kind of to avoid what you said, getting shut down completely? You got to kind of split these guys up when it comes to playoff time, and then put them together when you know that you need something or an emergency basis kind of thing? Or do you, and regular season, do you ride these guys as long as you want, or do it for 5 or 6 games? Say, okay, we know what we have here. Now let's round out the team, kind of sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it's nice to have options,
Yeah.
right? And now they've got this Lotto line option in their back pocket, so that you never want to. When they say like teams that haven't faced adversity and then they have to face adversity and it becomes really tough.
Yeah.
It's almost better to face a bit of that during the season. I think that's sort of true in this sense, in terms of if you had the set lines all season and you didn't really change them up much at all, and you get into trouble in the playoffs and you go, geez, what do we do? We're down 2-0 in the series. Do we, you know what I mean? Or you're down 3-1 in the series. What do you do? Do you shake things up?
Yeah.
And go with something that you haven't done all year? I don't think that that's something that you want to be doing. So to have this now where you go, okay, the Lotto line, we know that's almost like, they can load up maybe for a shift or 2 here. Maybe just when you need a goal in the 3rd period, maybe that's what you do.
Yep.
To be able to do that and know that it works, and know that it has worked, within, we knew it worked a few years ago, but to have it in modern day here now, I think is a really encouraging sign. I think ultimately you want to have Pettersson and Miller on separate lines.
Yeah.
So you're not just going putting all your eggs in one basket. You want to at some point be thinking about having a line that matches, that's your matchup line, that can worry about the McDavids and Dreisaitl's of the world if you go up against them.
Yeah.
So I think having different options is definitely key, and they've got a few of those. But still, I think the hope is that Kuzmenko turns it around, right? Like that, Kuzmenko is kind of the wild card right now.
He is.
If he can get back to being close to the type of player that he was 1 year ago and play Rick Tocchet hockey, that's a game changer. Now you can spread it out on 2 lines and go from there.
It's funny, on my own shows, Rob, I would say Kuzmenko is the type of forward that you need. in the playoffs, someone to score. But then I'm thinking defensively, Kuzmenko is not the type of forward that you need in the
Yeah.
playoffs, just because we haven't seen that part of his game yet. We didn't make the playoffs last year when he had 39 goals. So are you confident that Kuzmenko is more of a net asset than a net liability when it comes to playoff time?
No. Yeah, no, I mean, it really comes down to like, can he adjust? Can he make the adjustments and play for this coach? Like that's, I think he wants to. I think he's trying. I think he's just having trouble, adjusting, and it's a playing a style that he's not necessarily used to. I think it's hard to break old habits.
Yeah.
From everything we've heard, it seems like he still has a good attitude about this. He's not demanding a trade. Those are the latest reports. So I think there's still some hope there. They've still got half a season to turn it around,
Yeah.
and yeah, you just hope that he can do it, because that's a game changer. They're missing a top six winger right now, because Kuzmenko is not scoring and doing what he did 1 year ago.
Yeah, it's funny that you hear, well, all we're missing is, a defenseman and a top six winger. And I'm thinking we have a few of those top six wingers. They just got to produce. So I'll jump back to the forwards in a second. I do want to ask you about the D with Carson Soucy healthy now. And it didn't happen last game because Zadorov was dinged up. But this was the first time that we saw our complete six now that Zadorov has been, Soucy's healthy and Zadorov since the Zadorov trade. And I forgot that Soucy and Myers played so much together because I automatically thought it was going to be Zadorov, Myers, Soucy, and Cole, with Cole jumping in the right. But obviously they went Myers, Cole, Soucy, Cole, Soucy, Myers, and then Cole and Zadorov, with Zadorov playing on the left and Cole on the right. Do you like that lineup? Hughes, Hronik, Soucy, Myers, Zadorov, Cole. Are you fine with the fact that it's Juleson on the outside looking in right now? And I think we know he's going to get a chance to go back in. They're not going to stay healthy for the next 42 games. So overall, I guess, what do you like about the composition of our blue line? And do you think that it would behoove them to go out and get one or two more, at least one more bona fide NHL defenseman?
Yeah, I think this is the best their D has looked in quite a while, I would say.
Yeah.
There was a part of me that was wondering, would Tocchet be so hell bent on having the lefty righty thing that he would bench one of these guys? But just given the contracts of their top six, like there's a very clear top six, and then there's a drop off before Juleson.
Yeah.
I think puts Juleson in a much better spot. Being the number 7 guy, not being an every night player. Yeah, I like it. You're able to, at this point, you can. I'm not sure what pairing is going to be getting second pairing minutes versus third pairing minutes, or it's probably, my guess would be they'd probably be pretty even.
Yeah.
But now you're not in a position where you have to rely on Myers in a top 4 role. Hopefully Cole plays just fine on his offside, but Cole, I think, has been such an important piece that they've added this year. Like, kind of went under the radar, I think, in the offseason. There was a lot of talk about Soucy, a little bit less talk about Cole.
Yeah.
Cole's leadership, I think, it just oozes out of him, right?
Yeah.
It's just a guy that has so much experience, so well spoken. I mean, we go on this a little bit by how these guys talk in the media, right? Cole's a media darling, so take that for what it's worth. But he just seems like a guy that's I've asked talking about him before, and I think by all accounts he just seems like a guy that really provides a lot of value for his leadership.
Mhm.
Just the way he plays, a warrior out there, and all of his experience. I think he's been a real key addition to the blue line. So to have him, and you don't have to have the two gunslingers and Zadorov and Myers together. Now you can put a steady guy like Cole with one of them.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
similar, I think, is pretty steady guy back there as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like the look of their defense a lot better with everyone healthy.
Yeah, I do like the way Soucy just makes smart, subtle plays with his long reach, with his stick. He did a couple of them today as well. But great point, Rob, about an interesting point about the ice time tonight. Because with all 6, No one had less than 1846. That was Susie. And no one had more than 2149. So, and that was Hronik. So, sorry, Hughes. So all 6 defensemen were within 3 minutes of each other. And I think that's awesome. That bodes so well for this team trying to stay healthy going down the stretch. I have one more question for you about just the way we're 2 months away from the trade deadline. And I think you and I agree, no one would expect the Canucks to be second team overall in the league at January 8th or whatever day is. So are you fine? Take your reporter hat off for a second. And as a true Canucks fan, which I know you are you fine with them, whether you use the term all in or being true buyers? Or is it like, why not? We might not get in the spot again in the next 3 or 4 years. And maybe it helps Petey re-sign here. I don't know. What do you think?
He's not ready to talk until after the season or
yes.
whenever. I don't know. We don't know when he's ready to talk, but I don't think it's an all-in year.
Okay.
I do think they should be buyers, though. I think that they have a legitimate chance to win the Stanley Cup this year. Like that doesn't mean they're the favorites. That doesn't mean I'm betting the house on it, but they have a legitimate chance. They've as we mentioned, they're going to have a tough road within the Pacific Division. That's not a cakewalk. But I do think that they should be in a position where they're looking to add to their team at the trade deadline. Now, what does that look like? I think it really depends on what's available, what the prices are. I don't think that they should be jumping out of their boots to be, acquiring rentals and giving up, the few prospects that they do have available. But I do think that they're in a position where they can, look to see what they can acquire. And now the second question is, what do they need?
Yeah.
I think I said on Twitter the other day, the need, and this is when they had Miller and Pettersson playing on separate lines, they kind of need a 2010 Alex Burrows and they need a 2015 Chris Tanev.
Okay.
Right? Because that Miller line, was kind of missing the, Di Giuseppe works on that line, but Di Giuseppe is realistically a fourth liner. Yeah. You need kind of a guy that plays that type of game, a la Alex Burrows 2010, right? A guy that can finish off chances, play in a top 6 role, and forecheck and get extra looks for the 2 other more talented guys on his line, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then I see, there's 2023 Chris Tanev is available, but you'd prefer that might be nice, but you'd prefer 2015 Chris Tanev, right?
Yeah.
A guy that can play big minutes on the back end, that can block shots fearlessly, that can be a matchup defenseman, play against the other team's top lines, shut them down, move the puck. Like that's a dream, and be right-handed, right? Like all of those things is kind of what you want, I think, for this team as well. I know they've got the top 6 D now that all have, they all have contracts that say they should be, everyday players. But I sort of view the Canucks that they have a number 1 defenseman, they have a number 2 defenseman, they have, maybe 2, they have like a number 4 defenseman maybe, and then like they've got 3 number 5 defensemen, right? Like they're kind of missing that number 3, that true bona fide second pair D. I think they're missing that. So if you could get a time machine and get those 2 guys, that'd be great. Failing that, I think you try to get as close to those 2 types of players and bring them into your lineup. And if the winger is easy to acquire and you can do it, and the player has maybe a little bit term, maybe not an onerous contract, you do it.
Right.
Or if there's a defenseman available, you try to do that. So that's sort of where I'm coming from. But I don't think you want to be, they've got guys that they need to re-sign after the year. I don't think you want to be trading, really valuable future assets for guys that come in the door and then you have to lose a free agent. So you don't really win on that deal long term.
Right. So Patrick Alvin, you heard it first right here from Rob. He says, go find 2010 Burrows and go find 2015 Tanev. And then we'll be set. One more question, Rob, and then we'll get to the people. refresh my memory. Were you in the locker room last season as well, or this season only, or last season as well?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Last season also. Yeah.
I'm really curious. I hopefully this doesn't catch you off guard. Do you sense a difference in mentality and in mood this season as opposed to last season? I'm really curious. I like those kind of nuances and stuff. If there's anything to share, or is it the
Yeah.
same? Yeah.
I, I mean, the one thing I'll say is that the whole dressing room post game thing has changed quite a bit. I would say post COVID.
Yeah.
It's almost like you guys remember the Zoom pressers afterwards during COVID, where you just have one guy comes out and another guy comes out. It's kind of not that dissimilar to that now, where it's kind of like bring out a guy, and everyone sort of swarms the one
Yep.
player. Whereas there was a bit more of just opening up the room, and people would go all over the place
Right.
within the room and had more people available. So it's sort of
Uh,
changed a little bit, I would say. So you don't go. So I don't know if you like. I think you know fans maybe think of like reporters going into the room and there's all this like hubbub going around. There's not a lot of that anymore. And
right.
pre-COVID there was a bit more of that, where there was more things going on in terms of mood and attitude. I definitely, but I would say I must commend the Canucks on this. They have a real business-like attitude about things. Like you can just see they do not want to get too high.
Right.
They don't want to get too low. They don't want to make too much of anything.
As if
So they're not.
they haven't accomplished anything yet, right? That's kind of like their
Yeah,
mentality.
I mean,
Yeah.
inevitably, like after a win, they're gonna be
Yeah.
happier, and after a loss, they're gonna be not as not as happy,
Yeah.
and but at the same time, like they're not hooting and hollering after wins. Like there's not like
Yeah.
joking around very much. And I think that's maybe a testament to Rick Tocchet and him having them all kind of focused and thinking the right way. But I think it's also a little bit about the especially with their star players. Like these are guys that have lost a lot of games. They've had they've had a really tough time in the last few years, and they're finally winning, and they want this to continue. So that's sort of how I read the situation. They're not like, remember 2010, 2011 when Kessler was like, he was doing the Kessler bombs, or he's like in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
background eating pizza and stuff. Like there's none of that in the room. And I just think it's you know a a bit of the fact that they've had those failures in the past, and they've come just hyper focused
Yeah.
this season.
Well said. No, that's pretty cool. That's neat to hear. And yeah, I do like their workman like attitude in that they don't want to get too high because they truly haven't accomplished anything just yet. Okay, for the last 5 to 7 minutes, let's pepper Rob with 2 or 3 questions. So I'm gonna scour the chat now or get one in right now. This is Rob Williams of Daily Hive, and he's been with us for the past 40 minutes breaking down this Canucks game, looking ahead at what the next 2 months might hold for this team that we are so enamored with right now. So I want to be enamored by your questions. So let's get some questions in for Rob, and we will ask him right before he goes. Okay, first one from Fangirl. Would you trade Friedman at the deadline for depth or a draft pick? He's not getting a lot of chances in the lineup recently. And I guess the second part to that, or should we keep him for the depth that we might need in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think he's the depth kind of guy you want, right? Like, I don't think he's going to have, they got him off waivers. I don't think he's going to have a huge trade value. I don't know what you get for him at the deadline, the seventh round pick.
Right.
I'm not sure you really want to do that. I think it's nice to have an extra defenseman around to, having him in the number 8 role. Perfect. They're not going to be healthy forever on defense. We know this from, if you Canucks fans know this, right? Their defense is almost never healthy. So I think there's going to be a situation where, Friedman gets into games this season, and it's good to have that kind of a depth guy available. When he came over after the trade, I thought he looked really good. They had him in a top 4 role briefly right after the trade.
Yep.
That didn't necessarily last, but I do think that it's nice to have a spare piece that you can have some confidence playing.
Awesome. Chris asks, had to pick one team. Who do you think the Canucks are going to meet in the first round?
I'm putting my Canucks fan hat on here, and then and when you do that, you just expect the worst, right? You expect Vegas in the first round, like right, like they have this fantastic season, and of course who did they end up playing? They play Vegas in the
Yeah.
first round. Um, I think I'm not. I mean, I think Vegas probably in the end takes first spot in the Pacific, and you end up with the Canucks playing LA in the first round, and that'll
Wow.
be a really difficult matchup.
Yeah.
But
What?
yeah, I guess if I had to guess, that'd be my guess. But I'm not uber confident on it. It's a tight race.
Yeah, absolutely. You think we can shake another question from BIGT? I don't know if that's Big T, whatever it is. Do you think we can shake Elias Lindholm free from Calgary? Although, doesn't he want like $9 million or something for his next contract?
That's a tough one. Yeah,
Yeah,
I just think that's so tough to be bringing a piece like that just
yeah,
based on what their cap situation is, and Pedersen and Hronik needing new deals. I think that's going to be a tough one, and you're going to have to give up a lot of assets to get a player like that in. So like, what are you willing to trade like Lekaramaki or somebody like that? Like,
yeah.
guys like Lindholm don't come cheap. So I don't think they're in the market for that type of player. I think they're in the market for a tier below that.
Sure, fair enough. A couple more. Lefty all around asks, may I ask your guest? Yes, you can. May I ask your guest if he thinks D-Man Juleson is worth a second round pick at this point? And I'll prelude this by saying I guess the answer is similar to the Friedman answer. Is these are the kind of guys you want as depth in the playoffs, because I don't think you're getting a second rounder for Noah Juleson as well as he's played.
No, the Noah Juleson hype train has left the station clearly. No, yeah, no, the second round pick is not happening for Juleson.
Yeah,
I think you'd be lucky to get a seventh round pick.
yeah,
Maybe somebody would like him, just right before the playoffs to add a depth piece as a seventh or eighth D man.
yeah.
But yeah, no, that he's in the right spot for this is the right spot for Juleson to be in, and to be a number seven defenseman on an NHL team.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's thrilled with being in that spot right now.
Yeah, and you just think the last time the Canucks were in the finals in 11, Ham Hughes got hurt, hip checking Lucic, and Rome got suspended, right? So then that's why you had to bring in, I can't remember who came in for them. Was it like Alberts?
Chris Tanev was a call up from
Wow.
Manitoba that year, and yeah, they had guys like, who do they have? Andrew Alberts
Keith Ballard,
and
yeah.
like and Aaron Rome and Ballard and all these guys. Yeah, so you're going to need you're going to need a lot of bodies.
Yeah.
If you hope to make a long playoff run, it's very rare to be able to march through the playoffs and keep all your defensemen intact. Like they take a beating, from the opposition. So you're inevitably going to have injuries. So it's good to have extras.
Yeah. Awesome. And then finally, there's another question. So I got one last one, and then we'll wrap up. Um, when you see Hughes tonight, I was just thinking off the top of my head, I see Hughes versus Fox. Fox is a former Norris Trophy winner. Yeah, of course, Cale Makar has won one, and Quinn Hughes is the only one of the, I guess, and Darlene, they haven't won it either. But do you take joy, or do you care when you see Hughes outplay or play just as well as these other guys that have technically more NHL accolades than, or do you not worry about it and just it's gonna happen? If it happens, it kind of happens. Because as a fan, I'm not a reporter like you. I get totally proud and defensive, and I want Hughes so much to be respected and all that kind of thing. And maybe he is. He's going to the NHL All-Star game. But do you care? Do you notice those kind of things, or just kind of let it be?
Yeah, oh yeah, I think all these things matter,
Yeah.
you know, I think Canucks fans, desperately want Hughes to get his due, because I think the reputation that has kind of followed him has been undeserved,
Mhm.
and he's somehow got this reputation that he's not a Norris Trophy level defenseman. I thought I can't remember what position he finished in the Norris Trophy voting. I think it was like seventh or eighth or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
I had him third on my ballot, and there weren't a ton of people that had him top three.
Yeah.
So to have, I don't think you're going to see, I think you're going to see a lot more respect for Hughes, given the way the Canucks have played, given the attention he's received around the league. I think even just having the C on his chest, I think that's going to, like, that just changes the perception. Like voting for these awards are, they're NHL writers and
Hmm.
reporters that, let's be realistic. Like, they're not watching every Vancouver Canucks game, right? Like, they're watching the highlights, they're watching a few games, so there's reputation goes into this, right? Stats go into it. Um, you know, so I think that every little thing matters, and think especially if you have like a strong start to the season, that kind of builds momentum for your case. And I think that that's what's happened with Hughes. And I mean, he has taken a step from last season. I think there's no doubt about that. Like, this is being his finest season in the NHL, and I think that he's making a very, very strong case for the Norris Trophy. And yeah, like, when he, remember when they played Colorado and Makar had that massive game. It was kind of like a not so fast Quinn kind of game, right?
Yeah.
Like, to have one where Quinn uh, outplays Fox was great to see.
Yeah, and as we're wrapping up here, I see Thomas Drance and Jay Fresh fighting on X about it right now, but we can look at that later. Well, Rob, this is awesome. This is a very quick 50 minutes. I'm so grateful for your time and your willingness to say yes. I know you have a lot of responsibilities, especially running your own media and your own website. But the fact that you were able to hang out with us here on SDPN, we're very grateful. So once again, let's do this. Tell everyone where they can follow all your work. I'll do a quick wrap up, and then we'll be off. So where can people follow all your good stuff?
Yeah, shout out to Noah Strang. He's written the post game for us tonight, so you can catch his post gamer up on Daily Hive. But yeah, I can't remembe your question.
Oh yeah, and follow
Find me,
you.
find
Yeah.
me, find me. Yeah, find me on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Rob the Hockey Guy and dailyhive.com.
Awesome. And for all of you watching, make sure you follow Rob. You can get me at Canuck Clay on your way out. Hit the subscribe button. SDPN, we're only 500 away from 100,000, which is pretty cool. And make sure that you like the stream as well. Like the fact that we got a cool guest, we got a cool host, and the Canucks won 6-3, not 5-3, like I so embarrassingly said at the start of the show. Tomorrow night, love me or hate me, you're stuck with me again. I'll have up and coming Canucks YouTuber Rev Trev, Trevor Kempner, joining me to break down the Canucks versus the Islanders. It starts half an hour later than today's game, so just bump everything by half an hour. I should be online somewhere around 7:15 tomorrow night. So I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your night. Hope you're able to watch the game tomorrow. Follow Rob, follow me, and go to bed smiling, because the Canucks are number 2 in the entire NHL. Stay safe, stay healthy, take care of yourselves, and take care of each other. Good night, and go Canucks, go.